Well, good afternoon. My name is Justin Crozier. I am the owner and operator of Crozier Law, LLC. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I live here in Kansas City and wanted to talk about a little bit about how to talk to cops. Really, I wanted to talk a little bit more about how not to talk to cops, because the most important thing when talking with cops is not to say anything at all. I get a question on a pretty regular basis, which is, if a cop stops me, do I have to give them my ID? What do I have to tell them? What kinds of questions do I have to answer? And there's the short answer is, well, here in Missouri, at least, in Missouri, we have a law that's called Stop and Identify. What Stop and Identify means is that if an officer stops you and says, hey, give me your license, I need to know who you are, I need to know what you're doing, they can, to a certain extent at least. They have to suspect that you're involved in some kind of criminal activity, okay? They have to have reasonable suspicion. And what reasonable suspicion means is that they have to have some cause to think. They have to see you doing something. An example that I've used is that if you're sitting out in a field, you're not doing anything, you're looking at the clouds, your hands are in your lap, it'd be very difficult for a cop to have reasonable suspicion that you're doing something wrong, right? They'd have to have some basis to think something bad is going on. Now, if they come across you and you're standing in an alleyway and there's a dude laying on the ground and blood's coming out of his head and you're holding a wallet, we don't know whose wallet it is, it could be yours, it could be that guy's, then that's reasonable suspicion for the cop to be like, hey man, what are you doing? Give me your ID. And once that happens, you do have to provide them with your ID. You have to give them your ID, you have to tell them who you are. You also have to tell them what it is that you're doing, actually. They can require that you answer some question like that, but it's very brief, and that is it. So reasonable suspicion is kind of a step down from probable cause, which is what they need to arrest you. It's what they need to get a warrant issued. That's what they need for probable cause. For reasonable suspicion, it's just like, I think that guy's up to no good. And they can actually, if they believe that you are about to be involved in a crime, they can actually also frisk you, they can pat you down. That's from a Supreme Court case called Ohio v. Terry. Terry stop and frisk. That's where that comes from. Now, after that, so if the cop doesn't have any reason to suspect that you've done anything wrong, right? Say that you're a passenger in a car, the driver was speeding, you're just sitting there, nothing wrong. Roll down the window, the cop doesn't smell pot, he doesn't smell alcohol, he doesn't, there's not used needles, littering the vehicle, there's not guns up on the dashboard or whatever. He's got no reason to suspect that you've done something wrong, and he can say to you like, hey man, you give me your ID, I need to know who you are, and you're worried because you're thinking, I've got a warrant out or something, and I don't want to tell him who I am. At that point, you can say, officer, what do you suspect me of having done? Now, this isn't true every place. There are some cities in Missouri where if you are a passenger in a vehicle, they might be able to demand your ID. So you are going to have to check with your local ordinances, okay? You're going to need to know what it is that's happening in your city, whether Harrisonville, Blue Springs, Independence, Kansas City, St. Louis, wherever you are, you do need to check that stuff, okay? Make sure that what you're doing is correct, because you don't want to, tell the cop to go screw off if turns out that he's correct, and you need to tell him. In a general sense, though, if you're not doing anything that they have suspicion of, they can't ask you those questions. So if you do get stopped, then you need to ask them, officer, what is it that you suspect me of having done here? And then they can say, oh, I think you're a bad dude. Well, it's not enough. Being a bad hombre is not enough to warrant a police officer pulling you over, regardless of anything else. Even especially in Missouri, where now it's legal to not only just open carry but to concealed carry. Just seeing a gun isn't enough. And a lot of cops, if you happen to have a gun, cop sees you, they see a gun on you, and they say, I'm going to stop you, and they're going to say like, oh, why is this happening? And they'll say, well, you might be a felon in possession. Well, at that point, you just say like, why do you suspect me of being a felon in possession? There's nothing here that would indicate that I'm a felon. Like, do I look like a felon? Do felons look a certain way? And that it's one of the things they try to get you to ignore your own rights, which is inappropriate to say the least. But once they've done that, let's say at this point that an officer he's got reasonable suspicion, okay? So he suspects that you've done something wrong, he's demanded your ID, you've given it to him, and now he knows who you are, you don't have any warrants, but he doesn't, you don't have a gun on you, you don't have any crack or meth or pot or anything else on you. But they have, now they want to ask you some questions, more than just, who are you, where are you going, which is what they can ask. It says, hey, have you been doing anything wrong? They try and get you to incriminate yourself. Hey, there was a robbery down the street. What do you know about it? This is the point at which I lose my mind with my clients, okay? Because they start telling people things. Like, the cop pulls you in. They have you in on a 24-hour investigation, and they start asking you questions. And they start saying, like, oh, are you, this is what we think happened. Did you do that? Tell us something so you can save yourself. And I want to strangle people because they start telling them things. Like, they start admitting to things that, one, may not actually mean anything, but now the cop is going to take that information and they're going to try and use it against you, no matter what you do. Talking to the cops, outside of what you have to do, will never, ever help you. It's never going to be a benefit to you to talk to the cops. You could say, you say, oh, hey, we found out that, old Bessie was murdered down by the pier last week. You know anything about old Bessie being down by the pier? And they say, well, no, I don't know anything about that. I was up with my grandma while old Bessie was getting killed. And so now you've done two things. One, like, oh, how did you know when old Bessie was getting killed? That's strange. Maybe if you know when she was getting killed, you were the one who did it. Two, now they find someone else who says, like an old classmate of yours, who happened to be down on the docks. I don't know why he was there, but I don't know why you would have been there. We don't have docks in Kansas City, really. But there you are, and he says, no, I saw a guy who looked just like him down there. So now they can impeach your testimony. They can make it look like you're lying, even though you were telling the truth. You were really with your grandma. And your grandma, they're going to say, well, yeah, of course she's going to say that you were with her. She's your grandma. She loves you. She'll lie for you. So talking with them has now made it look like you're lying, and it's now incriminated you in some way because you've admitted to something that, I mean, you're not really admitting to anything, but they can use your testimony against you. So the best thing that you can do for yourself is not, just don't ever tell the cops anything. Just don't talk to them. Pick up your phone and look up, type in Crozier Law. Say, well, what's Crozier Law's number? Give me a call, and then I'm going to tell you, stop. Don't say a thing. Just say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and I want an attorney. You will never do yourself any favors. I've literally had clients who they've been in investigation, and I watch and I see it. So if you're going to be a client of mine, I'm going to see these interviews because they videotape them, and I'll watch you make a fool of yourself. But they get them on there, and they're like, man, we think that you were selling Molly, MDMA for those that are more scientifically minded. But we think you were selling Molly. And the guy's like, man, I've never sold any Molly. I've sold pot my whole life, but I've never sold any Molly. Really? You just told them that you've been selling pot your entire life? I mean, they may not have thought that you were actually selling. They're maybe hoping that you were going to admit to it. But now they've got you admitting that you're selling drugs. It's maddening. It really is. And I just want people to realize that the best thing that you can do for yourself is just to stay quiet. Don't say anything. Let your lawyer come in and not answer questions for you, because all you're going to do is make things worse for yourself. Never, ever, ever talk to the cops. Outside of the very limited ability that they have to stop you, to ask for your ID when it's legal to do so, and when they've given you their reason for why they're being detained, what they reasonably suspect you of having done. Once they've done that, that's it. You're good to go. That's all you have to answer. Anything else, man, just don't do it, please. I mean, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. I am hoping to get some more of these videos out every week. You can check these out. You can check out my blog post, which this week my blog post is going to be on the same subject. So if you want to, I guess, read about me ranting to what you just heard me ranting about, then you can do so. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'd like to take, some of these videos I do. I would like to answer questions if people have questions for me. If there's anything else people want to know, just get in touch with me, shoot me an email, check out my website, and I will talk with you folks later. Good luck out there, and please, just, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for me. Don't talk to the cops. I beg you, don't talk to the cops. All right, good luck out there.